Welcome back to A Considerate Life. This being the holiday season, I wanted to look at a couple scenes from the movie Elf and use those as a means by which to reflect on social media discourse. Because there's a style of discourse that, as a professional philosopher, I find mildly offensive in the social media space. So I'm going to use these clips to reflect on those.
Wow! What's this?
This is the North Pole.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Where's the snow?
Why are you smiling like that?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Buddy goes back and forth with his boss and says, he says, "This is the North Pole." And they go back and forth. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. So that's the one clip. There's another clip that has a similar structure where the boss comes in and says, "There's no singing at the North Pole." And Buddy says, "Yes, there is." "No, there isn't." "Yes, there is." What I wanted to reflect on in this video is the fact that this happens all the time on social media. And that is, there's a difference between an assertion and a counter assertion and an argument and a counter argument. So there are a number of times where people have posted on comments in my video. And the reason I say social media is because X and YouTube comment section, they lend themselves to this sort of exchange. And I did a video on hell, I think this time last year, and it got a lot of views and it got a lot of comments. But there was one comment that said something like, "Unfortunately, there is no God, hell isn't real, and Jesus was just a man." And that's an example of how, after this 20-minute video explaining this theological position, the comment section was met with just an assertion. God doesn't exist, hell is not real, Jesus was just a man. There's no argument there. That's just an assertion. And knowing that it's just an assertion, I just made a counter assertion. I just said, God does exist, hell is real, and Jesus Christ was the incarnate Son of God who came to take away the sins of the world. Right? As opposed to an argument and a counter argument. Now, the classical logical structure of a syllogism is all men are mortal, Socrates was a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Peter Kreeft, a philosopher and an author of many textbooks, one of them being Socratic Logic. In Socratic Logic, Kreeft says that we can think about the conclusion, the therefore statement, as the thing that we believe, and the premises, in this case premise 1 and premise 2, as the reasons that we believe that conclusion. So in this case, it's Socrates is mortal. Well, how do you know Socrates is mortal? Well, because Socrates is a man and all men are mortal, right? So that's the classic structure of an argument. So when you're debating with somebody online, as we tend to do, keep in mind whether or not the person is making an argument or making an assertion, because assertions can simply be met with counter assertions. That can be repetitive and it's not very progressive. It doesn't make it very much progress. It's not very productive. As opposed to, be in mind whether or not someone's made an argument. For example, here's an argument. God doesn't exist. That's the conclusion. Because if God existed, there wouldn't be so much evil in the world. But there is all of this evil in the world, therefore I cannot believe that God exists. A loving, caring, creative God could exist. That's actually an argument. Now, it's the premises and the conclusion are sort of strewn about, but there is an argument there. If God exists, then evil would not exist. But evil does exist, therefore God does not exist. Right? This is the classical problem of evil argument. It's found in the philosophy of religion. Now, as a good faith interlocutor, we need to be aware of whether or not someone has just barely asserted something and whether or not someone has made an argument. Because if someone's made an argument, then if we're going to progress in that conversation, we need to make a counter argument. So here, if God exists, then evil would not exist, but evil does exist, therefore God does not exist. A counterpoint would be this. Well, it's common in theism to hold that both God exists and evil exists. And some of those reasons are the free will defense, the greater good argument. There are arguments that God is not a moral creature, and so he is not beholden to the same sort of moral obligations that creatures are. But regardless of your tact, just being aware that there's an argument. So that's it. Because it's Christmas time, I wanted to use the clip from the movie Elf to reflect on the nature of assertions versus arguments, and then how those typically arise in social media, and then what a good faith response to either of those is. See you next time.